back again to have the conversations we have with people doing big things, entertainers, comedians, actors, you name it. We've got them on the pulse. And today we've got somebody who falls into all those kind of characters. I'm going to ask about the title that I read that Brad Williams was given, but he joins us here on the pulse. How are you, sir?
Doing great. And I do appreciate the fact that right in the intro, you're having a dwarf on your show, and you already told your audience that I'm doing big things.
There you go.
That makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside, because normally that adjective is not used to describe almost anything I do.
That's not where we start, generally speaking.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. I appreciate you doing this, and welcome to the show. Your start in comedy, and not, you have a Daddy Issues special that goes way background, but your comedy background got started in an interesting way with Carlos Mencia.
I went to see a comedy show of his. I remember I took my dad. It was Father's Day weekend of 2003. Mencia was on stage making midget jokes, and half the audience is laughing, and the audience sitting by me is like, and they're not laughing. And he notices that, and he goes, "Why aren't you guys laughing? These funny jokes." He goes, "What, is one of them here?" And I just raised my creepy little hand in the air, like, "Hey, yes." And
I'm here.
Yeah, and he didn't flinch. He immediately called me up on stage, and he started asking me questions. Now, I wasn't trying to be funny. I wasn't like, "Ooh, this is a little bit I can do." No, I just answered the questions he asked honestly, and they got laughs from the audience. I remember he asked me, he goes, "So what do you do for a living?" And at the time, I was 19 years old, and I was working at Disneyland. And I said, I'm born and raised in Orange County, California. So I said, "I'm working at Disneyland," and I heard some snickers in the audience. And then I just turned to the audience and said, "Shut up, I'm not one of the 7. And then they laughed like you did, and I was like, "Ooh, that felt good." And so immediately after that, I started looking up open mic nights. 18 years later, in a couple of weeks, it'll be 19 years. My goodness. 19 years later, I'm still doing stand-up comedy. What's a real job?
You weren't even trying to be a comedian at that point. You were just there to see the show.
Yeah, I was just there to see the show. And then, I was doing open mics for about a year and a half, and then got another break. And then, as you know, in this business, people always say, like, "What was your big break?" And it's like, well, it's not one big thing. It's like the thing that leads to the thing that leads to the thing that leads to the thing. 19 years, I've never really had a real job. I've worked at Disneyland and stand-up comedy. So pretty much. Oh, and then also when I was 16, I worked as a cashier at Hot Topic. If you know Hot Topic, it's like a lot of it's like goth, it's weird hair, it's gauges, it's piercings, it's tattoos. And I pretty much dressed more or less how I dress now. And I just walked in, and they're like, "Well, a dwarf, that's a weird body modification. That's good enough."
You've just been living the dream from that moment.
Yeah. I mean, whether it be at Disneyland or whether it be a comedian, I've just been a professional idiot for 19 years. I've found out a way to get paid for it. There's that old slogan, like, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's true for a lot of reasons. But I would do this for free. It's very fun.